And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. Uh, uh, Chat. Yep. So here we are. Oh, there's one. Hey, how you doing? AI. And so this guy is gray, but it should lighten up. But the California to Chicago is going to be hit by pretty big storms. And again, I keep talking about the big splat and what's going on. And I've been talking about it now for almost 3 years. And when May rolls around, I will have been doing Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob for almost 5 years. Boy, that's pretty amazing. You know, time flies when you're having fun. And I always enjoy doing these shows because of the cadre and the adepts. Right? And you want to get a hold of me, get a hold of me on my email, the dudewake42 at gmail. Dudewake42 at gmail. You want to put something on the old PayPal, which I truly would appreciate. And they ask, it's the dudewake42 at gmail. Dudewake42 at gmail. And I want to thank those 4 people who put something on the old PayPal since Thanksgiving. And that may not seem like a lot, but those 4 people didn't have the money, but they sent it to me anyway, right? So I appreciate that. And it's a gift. It's like I do this, I don't charge for this, I don't amortize this, YouTube keeps me down on the farm, which is fine because quality over quantity, So before I start the show every day, I start off with a meditation, right? Because this show is a shamanic ceremony, right? So I can, in every day, in every way, take the piece of the earth and make it stronger through my acceptance of love's co-creation in my heart, my acceptance of Jesus Christ's unconditional forgiveness in my mind. Right? Yesterday was a very interesting day. If you watched the show, and you can go watch it, I was waiting a friend. We were going to have breakfast, but he's a lawyer. He had to go to court, so he blew that. I'll be there for lunch. And I can't do it. I'm in another place. So I spent from like 10 a.m. till about 2 at this time. And about 10 people came by, and it was a slow day for them. I mean, there were a lot of people there, but not like it usually is, packed. So, I took the smallest table that most people don't like to sit in, and I just sat there all day. And basically, 10 people came by. Can I talk to you, Al? So they sit down and they would ask, talk about a problem they had, and I would give them insight, right? That's what I do, right? That's what I do on this channel. I give insight. Don't believe a word I sell. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your Sensei Al Bob. That's me. And I am your griot here to tell you a story. And what does your griot do? Tell us a story that enables the listener to experience a different perspective. And you go, right? And that is the bottom line, is what is your experience? What are you doing? Like last night I talked to one of my scholastic friends, and he's kind of retired. He's had a bunch of heart attacks. And, so I said, what's the meaning to life, buddy, for you? And he said, well, I do my little projects, and I clean the house, and, and I clean the yard. And I said, so that's the meaning to life, being a maid, He goes, no. And basically, what he's doing is keeping up with the Joneses, right? But he calls me because, he loves to try to unearth my perspective, right? Because he's a scholastic, he goes by the textbook, and he has a belief. So he has, and he constantly switches his belief. It's kind of like Winston having to rewrite history in Brave, 1984, right? And that's when, Winston, they say, oh, you're going to work all week out until he's there in the Ministry of Truth, and he's rewriting history. The part of the world that has been our allies for at least 100 years is now our vile enemy we've been fighting for all of time, right? And the difference is just 2 days, and he's rewriting history, right? And he comes home after 48 hours of rewriting all of history, and it's like, uh-oh, something's wrong here. I'm not just like, spinning the tale. I'm rewriting it, right? And so we were discussing Ukraine thing, right? And my basic thing is that we are experiencing what we've experienced since forever. The global agenda, right? And the global agenda has been around since Babylon, Egypt, Mesopotamia, Samaria, Rome, Greece, Spain, England, Western Europe, France, right? And I'm reading a book, Master and Commander, right? And it really, it's written in the 70s about the English Navy, protecting the English Empire. And that's what our Navy does. We have, well, we're a hegemony. America's terrible, mean, it's imperial, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, so, but it's not America. It's a global agenda. NATO is part of it. Japan is, it's a unipolar, transnational. Unipolar meaning there's only one entity in charge, and it's not she, or even Joe Biden. It's got it's Biden. He's terrible. He's worse than Hitler. It's like, he's just a poster boy. He's wired. He's like, as dark journalists would say, he's Stepford Biden, right? So the only way, so I try to explain it to Duluth. You got to explain it to Duluth. I tried to explain to my scholastic friend that the real issue isn't geopolitics, isn't America trying to force its hegemony. It's the fact that every human on this planet is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Right? Now, everyone suffers from, it's a gradating scale, right? So not everyone is batshit crazy or suicidal, but all these people shooting people with guns. Your normal person wouldn't do that. That person is stressed to the point where they're hearing voices. They don't know any better, and part of that is, the environment we live in. The unmentionable one posted a thing on my stream saying, "Oh, it tells me I'm terrible because I drink so much coffee. I used to drink 40 cups a day, and it's fine." Right. So every time he's throwing me out, I can tell he's had 4 or 5 cups of coffee like in the last 15 minutes, right? Because there is no common logic to what he's saying. Get out, right? So I was fixing his everything, and he throws me out, which is fine. It was fine timing because
How are y'all doing?
I came back a week ago Tuesday, and it was a beautiful sunny day. I got back; it was 60-something degrees. It was 40 degrees at night, and I had no problem with um, getting ready for spring. Turned everything back on and straighten things out and start going through stuff to put it away neatly. And started to fix the road because we're now going to be in the rain. We're still in winter, but it was 81 degrees yesterday, up in the deep green, at 3,800 feet. In the summertime, it doesn't get that hot. It's obviously we're being distracted because the powers that be don't want the general public to know what's really going on, and they have painted themselves into a corner. They, meaning the unipolar transnational, meaning in every, Stan Lee, uh, through Marvel, his Marvel comics. I was talking to a friend of mine who would say, so I have, over the 30 years of me being an itinerant scholar, I met a lot of people, made a lot of friends in lots of different ways, right? So a lot of scholastics, a lot of scholars, a lot of military folk, a lot of people working for like Brookings and the Council on Foreign Relations and entities like Trilateral Commission, Club of Rome, and things like that. And these folks, I talk to them on WhatsApp, right? That's supposed to be a point-to-point, no one can listen in. But of course, everyone listens in, right? I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and I was discussing and describing how kind of things work. And I got pretty particular, and bang, our phone conversation was, disconnected, and on their end, they weren't like cut off. A screeching sound went into their head. And on my end, there was recorded voice. This conversation is not allowed. This conversation is not allowed. This conversation. Me, it's like when that guy, totally whacked out on his head on PTSD. You're intimidating everyone. Me intimidating? Come on. I live on 400. I'm not. This guy's got more money than. Well, he thinks he's got more money than that. He just keeps buying more cars and more land and more this and having more heart attacks because he's not facing the dilemma of his stress, right? And he's putting his whole family through it, right? His kids, his wife, and so I was working on the road yesterday, and he drove to see Colonel Sanders, right? And he keeps buying newer and fancier cars to like impress. So he drove up. He bought himself a Land Rover a couple after his first heart attack. Then he had another heart attack, and he bought himself a mint condition 1970 something XKE, and then he had another heart attack, and now he bought a brand spanking new electric BMW, right? Probably cost $100,000, right? And I said, so I thought you thought electric cars were a waste of time. Well, it's a way of the future. And anyway, so he's on his third heart attack, and he showed me a scar. And this is a guy who, about 2 years ago, I was talking to him, and he said, "How you doing?" I said, "So I just had a really bad." He kind of came to see me, and he said, "I had a really bad dream about," because he had been in Iraq and Afghanistan, and killed a lot of people, right? And he's a good guy, and it affected him, right? And so he was having dreams about it. That's why he has heart attacks, right? PTSD, right? And so. So, we're doing fine. So, 2 years later, and he, I was fixing the road, and he and I was doing it with a rake, right? And he has bulldozers and front end loaders and you name it, tractors, backhoes, and track hoes. And he doesn't have a business; he just keeps buying stuff. Right? So anyway, he drove, went up to see Colonel Sanders. Sanders wasn't there, or the gate was locked. And Sanders, he's obfuscated, 3 people's lots by putting this gate like a tenth of a mile from his property line, and keeps it locked so people can't go up into their own property. I mean, so that's why, in a lot of ways, and people from California, the usual cockroaches, are buying up these lots, and they're doing it online. Oh, look at it, it's so pretty. It's only $30,000. Oh, and then they come and realize their property is it is a cliff, right? So it's air. They have air rights basically. Anyway, but once people start building there, because it's like once they start building, everyone's going to be. I mean, you look like you got a lot of land. I'm the only guy who has a lot of space, and it's flat, and it's because it was the hollow at the bottom. And so this guy, supposed to be, engineer type guy, Mr. PTSD with the BMW, and he's looking at me. I said, "Why is it so muddy here?" I said, "Well, there's this big rock that goes from Kentucky to Florida, and it runs right to our property. It runs right through your property. Haven't you noticed the big rocks?" I said, "There's certain places where you wonder why the water doesn't go away, right? This is why. This is a big rock here, right?" And when you came in, I didn't tell him, but he dug it. So I put in a number of French drains to drain it off. But when you're the lowest spot and there's a rock where nothing can go down, even if you put a pipe and you do, it still doesn't take all the water away. And then, I didn't have money, so I went over to where all of this mountain's flowing down, and I just kept taking what was rock, but mostly clay, and putting it there, right? And so it's like asphalt. But if you drive on it, like at 30 miles an hour, when it just finished raining 5 inches and the water hasn't had time to move off, what you're going to have is mud, right? Because clay can turn into mud very nicely, and then it dries, and then you've got these gigantic ruts, right? And anyway, so it was perfect time. It was a nice day yesterday. It had rained the day before, so everything was soft, and I was raking things away because we're about to have lots and lots of rain for at least a month, right? And if I don't do this, that whole thing's going to be the mud apocalypse. Because when I came back, it had rained 2 weeks, so it was already mud apocalypse. And Colonel Sanders, he's got 4 crappy cars, 2 really, he's got whatever those DMC gigantic station wagon things, Tahoe or whatever. And he comes down that hill at 30 miles an hour. And then just at the bottom, he guns it and goes up. Where I come down and go up. I just let the motor go put, and it takes me up the hill. And we know, it's a quarter mile of that hill, right? Whether I do it at 3 miles an hour or at 50, it doesn't matter because it's only, some put, and I put no stress on it. Colonel Sanders, guns it, and there are all these potholes from where his wheels are spinning, right? But when he first, he'll be in May. He'll be here 2 years. I expected him to be gone by now. But once those tweakers from California and North Carolina and New Jersey and Florida, like him, he's a tweaker, right? And so what is a tweaker? It's someone who constantly is self-medicating. And they can be self-medicating on many different things. They can be, self-medicating, with drugs, alcohol, sex, food, unsustainable consumption. And they're Janie Poo. And so So that's, the universe has come, not the universe, but my laboratory. I left my laboratory 14 years ago, and now it's come back. For 18 years, I lived in a beautiful nature preserve. There was nobody there, right? But it was gorgeous. Animals, everybody. Dragon was talking about how you know he's living in a place where animals come to him and the birds land on his hand. But if you're the only guy there and you're being nice to them, you're energetically being nice to them, yeah, of course you're gonna love it, right? So, and that is the motif of that's the motif of nature. When you're in balance, everything works fine. And that's
This is somebody, I
so. Anyway, the interesting thing about our friend with PTSD, our military friend with PTSD, he's after 3 heart attacks. He's like, so when he drove by with his black windows, you couldn't see who it was, and hey Rhonda, and he backed up and rolled the window down. Said, hey, boy, it's pretty muddy here. I said, yeah. And I said, the big rock and the this and the that. He was like, and he's supposed to be Mr. Engineer, and he's got all this equipment. And he ripped the road up because I was fixing the road with a rake, right? You know what you're doing. And he was, that's the guy with more degrees in it. Come on, you don't know what you're doing. So, he backed up, he rolled his window down, and I said, well, I'm just making some swells because we're going to have a lot of rain in the next month. So I don't do this now when it's sunny and everything's soft, I'm not going to be able to get it done. So I'm not going to do it all in one day. It's going to rain tomorrow and Saturday and Sunday, and that's going to be sunny the rest of next week. So I did a few things, and then it'll rain these 2 days. I'll probably get 2 inches, and I'll be able to see how it works and what more I have to do. Right? Not do it all at once. Right? So anyway, so I'm talking to him about that because I just want to apologize. And this is a guy who never apologizes. He's always right. I'm going to apologize. And he doesn't say for what, but I know for what, right? He's trying to kill me with his bulldozer and his gun on his side, right? I look down, he doesn't have his gun on his side anymore, right? I said, so, 3 heart attacks. And he shows me the scar. I said, oh boy, it looks pretty good because the scar, you can tell how someone is doing open heart surgery just by the scar. I said, so you're doing better? He goes, yep. I said, so are you walking around? He goes, no, I walking from the car to the house, I would get out of breath. I said, do you have oxygen? And he goes, well, I said, what are you saying? It's too expensive to, get Medicare to give you so you'd have to pay $50 a month for a machine that makes oxygen that you could sit, watch TV and breathe, right? And he goes, well, I said, you should come and visit and sit on the deck, and I'll show you some breathing exercises. Well, maybe I'll do that. And so his whole demeanor had changed because he had faced why he had those heart attacks. Maybe not completely, but he started to, right? And that's what we have to do as a planet. The thing that separates humans from all our other relations is that we are all our other relations are in balance, right? With their environment, right? We aren't, right? But we are capable as a species to work together to accomplish amazing things, right? The problem is that we're motivated by fear and anxiety and our ego, all illusions, or only love is the thing that exists, right? And so the guy who had the 3 heart attacks, he's trying to fill that hole with stuff. I can understand that, from 2004 to 2014, I worked in the corporate world as a negotiator for desperate lawyers, right? I wasn't an employee. I was a consultant. So they paid me. I would have projects go in, take care of it, fix it, wait, fix it, right? And and by doing that, and that's all, and I lived most hedonistic life because for 60 years up until then, 65 years up until then, 64 years up until then, I was, Mr. Fix-It. I was either an electrician or artist or social activist or you name it. I was it. Itinerant scholar. I was Mr. Fix-It. And I kind of had it because to fix something, especially if you're working with people, they have to want it fixed, and most people don't because the conflict is the thing that defines them, right? Otherwise, they do as such classic, just right, I fix around the house and clean things up. And I said, so that's the reason for living, you know? He goes, well, I'm involved. I'm involved than most people. I listen to the news. I said, oh, okay, that's good. Listen to Tucker, Richardson, and Scott, what's his name, and the same old droll people. They represent the corporate. No, they don't. They're free speech. I said, good luck with it, buddy. So I tried to explain that the real problem is post-traumatic stress disorder. And we all have it. I have it. I grew up. The thing that saved my bacon, that was from birth till 6. I was with my unconditional, loving Italian grandmother, surrounded by other grandmothers, living in a community that was not a melting pot, but a super diverse salad bowl. Second Avenue, every 3 blocks was a different nationality, right? And every public school that referenced those neighborhoods didn't all speak English. They spoke, Lithuanian, German, Spanish, Italian, you name it, they were speaking. The kids were learning English. They were either born here or just got here, and they're becoming Americans. And that is the great gift of America is that we are an immigrant, right? So Mr. Scholastic basically was going, well, that's human nature. We all compete and kill each other. I mean, look at the Apaches. No, I said, buddy, you are. I was an anthropologist. I said, you had a degree in anthropology? No, I had a degree in geology, but I took 2 anthropology courses. I'm an anthropologist. I said, oh, that's nice. So, and scholastics hate it when I go, oh, that's nice. I said, well, anthropology was a discipline that was developed by white men to categorize other cultures so they could take them over easier. Oh no, they were telling those people who and what they were. I said, that's right. That's exactly. I mean, he keeps repeating what I say in his own fashion without realizing that's exactly what I said. He thinks I'm directly up. I'm the enemy, right? But he says exactly what I said, but in a different way. So anyway, I said, no, the Apaches before, what changed, what made the Apaches the raiding marauders was horses. Horses didn't show up until the Spanish showed up, the Europeans. So, when technology shows up and disrupts what the natural order was, that's when you have these unexpected consequences, and that's the Apaches. Because before that, the Apaches lived, out there, and just they were just hunter gatherers. Really, they were sustainable. They were off the grid. They were the Indians who were off the grid. The other Indians were, especially in the east. They had when Hudson came up the river, right, and he saw all of these amazing plants growing along. He couldn't believe it. It was in the Garden of Eden. He didn't realize that the Indians, this was their farms, but they didn't cut down the trees and have open fields. They grew everything that would be sustained by the forest. Each of those foodstuffs were growing better because they were in the forest, being protected by the trees. Right? So the Dutch came in and cut all the trees down to make boats and houses, and then turn them into fields, right? And that's how you get upstate New York looking like how it looks. So, you know, the real deal is we all individually have to look at our lives and see what stresses us out. So there's five of you there. Anyone, Jane, Rhonda, you want to comment on what your PTSD is? Mine was so. I was formed like an easy bake oven of unconditional love, and then I was thrown into the frying pan of my Freudenscheider feral family. I had like six brothers and sisters who were all like, "Eh!" And my parents, my mom, who was like, smoking a carton of cigarettes a day and drinking a gallon of cocktails every day. And she was self-medicating. And my father, who was still kind of, when you're a bird colonel in the Air Force Strategic Air Command, even though you kind of retire, you're still in the show. And he would go, he would go to meetings and things, and I would go with him. That's kind of why I got to see an above ground nuclear explosion in the Nevada Flats, in 1956. That's kind of real. When you see one of those, and you're wearing a lead cover, and you're looking through welder's glasses, and the light is still brighter than you could ever imagine, and you're got your hand up in front of your face and you see the bones in your hand, and you're 6 years old, you kind of go, right. So, because nuclear weapons are a lot more than just a big boom, right? They energetically affecting the universe, right? And as people get more understanding of like string theory and quantum physics, they're really understanding. When every time you blow one, even if you blow one of those things up underground, energetically, it's affecting other universes, right? So that's one reason why we stopped blowing them up. Because the homeboys showed up and said, "Hey, stop it!" Right? That movie, the Day the Earth Stood Still. I mean, that's kind of what happened. Right? Every movie you see is kind of what happened, right? Gangs of New York, kind of what happened. Morning, Fish. We're talking about post-traumatic stress disorder, and you and I have talked about it a great deal, and Fish, someone who understands this and has organically worked to instead of becoming a drug addict or going the way that a lot of people. Well, those people just act that way. Well, she's not one of those people. She's not an other. She's our sister, right? She's part, and so is all of us. We are all our relations, right? And until we realize that, until we serve love co-creation, until we deconstruct our own life experience and realize what traumas we've been through. So, in my family, I mean, I was murdered by a nun in the first grade. Now, that ain't, she crushed my larynx and my voice box, broke the orbitibus, and I broke the little stirrup in this ear, broke my jaw. My head was in a cast for a year. I couldn't speak after that. And when I started to try and speak, I stuttered. So, and then my godfather, Cardinal Cushing, put me in this sanctuary run by the Marinols, and there were all these people who had the skill sets to put me back together and make me better. Right? Said, "Oh well, so you can't speak in this. Well, we're going to, teach you how to speak a different way, and how I get, and you can hear me stutter, but I don't, right? And how I was trained not to stutter was to listen, actively listen to everyone, right? So when I respond, I'm responding to what they're saying, right? And I have thought about what I'm going to say, and I think about it with conscious intent by them, and then I speak it. And that is being shamanic. Right? That's why every one of these shows is a shamanic ceremony, right? I'm not here with a rattle and a drum and incense and candles, but energetically before I go on, conscious intent I am, conscious intent I am, conscious intent I am. Oh, now say it all everyone here. Take a big breath in, fill those lungs, a little more, and then breathe out. More out, more out. And then breathe in. With that big breath, you say, conscious intent I am, conscious intent I am, conscious intent I am. Oh, do it 3 times. And then go up and do whatever you're going to do. Whether it's washing dishes or doing that project at work or hanging with your kids or your family or whatever, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whatever. Do it with conscious intent. And you will see all the pitfalls, all the opportunities right in front of you. Then you will be conscious aware. I am conscious aware. I am conscious aware. I am. That's when you have your 360. You see everything around you. You see the moron 2 blocks away. So you can either get set to say something to them and then drop the mic and walk away, or you just walk away so you're not even there, right? So at the deep green, because of Colonel Sanders, he's got all these tweakers coming in and out. He's, got the whole meth hill as his buddies. And I don't judge or even look, I've talked to them, and a number of them are like, wow, I feel better after I talk to Al. He makes me so intimidating, one or the other, right? And pretty much that's always been my experience. And that's how people responded. Like, wow, that's like yesterday, the whole time in that diner. 10 people came by, right? And I helped them all. I talked, gave them insight into what was bothering them. And that's why they came up. Because they know I would do it. And I would do it without judgment. I would do it without any institutional authority. I'm a shrink. I'm in authority. I'm a doctor. I'm a double doctor. I've got authority over you. I'm going to make you lie down. No. So that's what we need to. We have to be there for each other. Right? So here it is, 37 minutes and 37 seconds. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland. To everybody who's here, we're talking about our own fears, our own traumas, So I got murdered by a nun, and from birth until I was 10 years old, I got deadly sick once or twice a year. I was stunted growth. I was a little peanut until I was about 12, right? And by that time, I had gotten control. Hello, dragon. I got a hold of my my health, and said that's at 10 again when I died, and I was in this Catholic hospital for over Easter, and my parents just ignore who cares, and I was there with the raving fever at 102 for like almost a week, and no one did anything except the nuns were waiting for me to die because they were going to put me in the oven, and instead of having lamb, they'd have me as the offering. Anyway, so they were very interesting, cultish nuns, the ones that look like flying nuns, And I was in this ward, and everyone was, and they had this big TV up on the ceiling, and they were showing the Wizard of Oz, and I thought the Wing and Winkies were coming out of the TV, coming after me, and this nun came, how you doing? How you doing? You're gonna die. We're gonna cook you up for dinner. And I just went, boom, right straight up, bang. And she flew over me across the room and smashed into something over there. And I looked over, and there was Death, right? And he was standing there just kind of like, mm-hmm. And, he was really tall, really thin, almost like a skeleton. and he was wearing a black suit, right? And it was like super crumpled, like he slept in it for all of eternity. And he had a pumpkin head with a big jack-o'-lantern smile. And he came over and said, "Come with me." And boom, it was like straight out of 2001 when Dave went into the, "It looks like stars." That's right. And that ended up in the Holiday Inn at the other end of the universe that was all white. That's what happened to me. It's like all this light flashing by. And he said, "Don't bother with any of that." And bang, we were in this, motel room, and I was in a bed. And, he's saying, "Here, drink this." And he had this big glass of lemonade with a gigantic straw that instead of being in my mouth, it was going into my arm. And so he goes, "I'm not supposed to interfere, but you are so amusing. I can't let you die. I'm gonna like give you a little fork in the road here, kid." And he did. And flying monkey nuns, yes. And so when I came back, I was trussed up in a bed. My legs were tied to the bedpost. My arms were tied to the bedpost. I had a ball in my mouth with a rubber band around it, so I couldn't say anything. And my eyes were covered with sanitary napkins, and I was in a pool of something that didn't smell too good. And I said to myself, "That is it. I am never getting sick again, period. I am through with this." And just then the door kicked open, and my mom was screaming out in the hallway, and my Aunt Gracie came in. She opened her pocketbook, took out her switchblade, cut the ropes, picked me up, put me on the ground. She goes, "Can you stand?" I said, "I don't know." And so she just ripped all my clothes off, went over and got this, thing of water and just doused me with it, and then took a blanket off of somebody else's bed and wrapped me up in it, and cleaned all the gook off and threw it on the ground. And then she went and found a new blanket that no one had touched, and wrapped me up in that, picked me up, and walked me out. And my mom screaming at the nuns, "The Pope will hear from us," and they walk me down, and they take me to Sears and buy me a new suit. I'm naked in a blanket, and they buy me a new suit, right? And they both look at me, "Looks good." And then they went to the club, and they put me on the porch in a rocker, and I was sitting with all the old folks in a rocker, and they wrapped me up in a blanket, and they went off and played cribbage. And for a month, my Aunt Gracie and my mom went and took everyone's money at that club, right? They were, because my mom could count cards like you couldn't believe. And the mobsters would send a limousine for my mother 4 or 5 times a year and take her to the gambling place in New Jersey on the shore. And my mom always looked like the queen, and she'd make this entrance, and I was always there as her foil. I'd be in my little suit, wearing my, if it was winter, I'd be wearing my camel's hair coat, my shoes all shined up, and we'd walk in, and she'd start, playing either cribbage or what's the card game where you have a teammate and you bid? Anyway, both of those, she would just take people to the cleaners, and then she would go to play other card games, and she'd work up to playing whatever they call that game that everyone plays, where you get cards and you try to get the best hand, and you bet on it. What do you think you got? Anyway, poker, right? And all she did was set these people up, so then they would gamble more in the house where the house would make more money. Bridge. That's it. Thank you, Rhonda. My mom was like the devil at bridge. And she played it up until, she was 90. And then no one would play with her. My parents lived in this super duper schmancy gated community, and she would take those ladies And then she started playing bridge with the men and still killing them. And at a certain point, they kind of made a rule: no playing anything with this lady. She's just going to take us to the farm. So my mom just then was happy to be the regal queen. She was so good, no one wanted to play with. She didn't have to play. She just wanted to show everyone that she was the best at whatever she did, and she was to the day she died. Triple Sagittarius, which can be intense for some folks. Yeah, but every sign has its good and its strong, its strengths and its weaknesses. And when you understand them, you can navigate in a way that is extraordinarily good for you, because what we're here to do is to learn about our spirit, not to get more cars or more real estate or any of the above, right? So, and to enjoy our lives, meaning all the years that I worked as an electrician and everything else I did those things because I enjoyed doing them, not because I was paying the bills. I mean, that was second. I mean, right now, I live, and the rich people hate it when I say it. The Captain, Colonel Sanders, is always goes like this when I say, I live like a millionaire on $400 because I don't owe anyone anything. I do not spend money I do not have. Yin yang to everything, balance, equilibrium, is love, co-creation. Couldn't have said it better, esoteric. Right? So we are in a very interesting time. This is, 250,000 years ago, we were kind of at the same time. We have a great opportunity to take that fork in the road, or we'll have nuclear war and obliterate, 98% of everything, and 2% will be left, and you probably, will be like worse than Mad Max, and then we'll have 900 years of the Dark Ages, right, creeping up, right? Because the 900 years of Dark Ages that the Catholic Church precipitated on the human race was, the first it was the Roman Empire. That was the first Reich. Second Reich was the Holy Roman Empire. That was the 900 years of the Dark Ages, right? That the Catholic Church precipitated, right? And then, like a light switch, they brought on the Enlightenment and then the Renaissance, right? And now we're at that same moment where we can choose whether we're going to go into another dark age or move forward in being our spirit, to serve love's co-creation. We have a great opportunity. You don't have to start a big movement. You don't have to be, what's her name, from Sweden. She's just a poster child. She may think innocently that she's doing the right thing, but been there, done that, right? And I realized that what's best is that, that old Adam, think globally, act locally, right? So that's what I do now. I'm involved in all the, that's every time I go into one of these diners, I just want, it's in a big college town, so most of the people here are parents of the kids. That's what this place caters to. You're not, people who come here every day and know each other, like the place I was in yesterday, right? When I go to Thailand, there are about 4 places, I go to. And so I go to Els, I go to Thailand, I go to Jay's, and those 3 places, and I go to my elevator music office, right? And so those 4 places, everyone knows me, and people come and say, "Can I talk to you?" Right? So we're here now, 49 minutes and 49 seconds. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland. How about some more thumbs up so the algorithm get more? Anyone who's not subscribed, come on, subscribe and hit that bell. Get your friends to subscribe. You should have potluck dinners, Sensei Al Bob potluck dinners where you come together, whoever has the best big screen, and then go online and and find a show and watch it. that one doesn't strike a fancy. Blah, 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 blah. Hit another one. I have close to 2,000 shows, right? And every time I get over 500 and I'm moving towards 600 subscribers, YouTube drops me back to like 460, right? And so, and it's all good. I don't care. Whatever little gifts you deem to send me through PayPal, I thank you very much. Not many of you do, but a few of you do. Some of you do it quite religiously, and I know you guys who do that. You send me $10, $15, $20. I know that's a chunk of change that you kind of need, but you see the value of your Sensei Al Bob. You agree on telling your stories, so you actually throw something into it, right? So you are more than just the person who's watching this, right? And that's fine. The cadre is great. The adepts are great. And those loving folk who are generous with whatever they have, that's great too. So if you want to throw something to PayPal, remember, do to wake 42 achievement. Do to wake 42 achievement. You want to get a hold of me? You want to talk to me? Do it on the internet. The do to wake 42 achievement. And I go and look every day. It's somewhat tedious. First of all, you have to realize that there are times that I don't get out and about, so I don't get to the internet, right? So days can go by. And I get a lot of spam. I get a lot of stuff. So every day, at least 10 to 30 things are in my email. And I have to go through it. And sometimes, I can pop things up that I should look at, but I don't. Right? So, again, I have no idea what I'm doing. Don't believe a word I say. But let it resonate inside your heart. Clear out the cobwebs. Open your minds to love's co-creation. Be there for your community. Start having potluck dinners. Start having dance-a-thons. Start, going into you. That's why I go to all the churches I go to, is to inspire and motivate those communities that already exist. I don't have to invent them, to do their best rather than just do the same old thing, right? And that's why they actually, I was gone for about a month, and this Sunday I went and visited them all, and I go to their Bible studies, not to their, their services. And to a person, I said, we were so concerned. We thought we didn't know what happened to you. I said, well, after Christmas being 60 degrees below zero, yes, that was cold. I said, well, we haven't really seen you since before Christmas, around Thanksgiving, and you weren't feeling too good. And then that ridiculously cold, we knew how cold it was where you, did they come and see me? No. Did they come and check up on me? No. Did they make sure my electric bill was paid? No. Did they make sure I had food? Kind of, but I have to go to them to get it, right? So anyway, but one church is very nice. The guy runs the place. He said, over here, look, over by the wood pile, we're making stacks of cans that we wrap up in bags, and then we cover them up in tarps. And so if you ever have no food, just come here and take what you need. I mean, that is very sweet. It'd be nice if they came and visited and brought me that stuff, but that's they have their own little owl pile, right? So thank you guys for everything you do, right? And so before it becomes 1 hour of the show, I'm going to skip out of here. And I may, jump on and do a show around 3 o'clock. I have a couple of doctor's appointments between, what time is it now? Yeah, it's only 10 minutes. So I have a doctor's appointment about 11:10. I have another one at 1, and then I have one at 2:30. And in between, I'll do a little shopping, and then I will head, for home and get back to the deep green. And my neighbors, if there's nobody there, much love to you, Trash, and all of the cadre. So I hope you enjoyed today's show. And remember, I want you to think about what has been your trauma and how, and the first thing you have to deal with trauma is you have to illuminate and understand what it is, right? then you have to forgive yourself, because most trauma, you blame yourself. It's my fault. It's my fault. I did this. No. Most trauma is done from an exterior force, either an environmental force or a cultural force or a social force, right? It has nothing to do with you. You just weren't consciously aware. So it got in your grill. I mean, when your parents beat you or rape you or starve you or whatever they've done, it's not your fault, right? When the church rapes you and starves you and beats you, it's not your fault, right? When that nun murdered me, it wasn't my fault. I mean, it kind of was. I was being a cheeky monkey. I just kind of pushed her buttons. Like I said, people go, "Oh, you're so wonderful," or "You intimidate me. I can't take it." You know, I pretty much do either or at the same time. And that was a skill set given to me by Bob, to wake people up, right? That's really what I'm here to do. And, first and foremost, I had to wake myself up, right? I had to get over myself being the dude, I had to get over thinking, because I was so groovy that, I could have very easily slipped into being entitled, but I wasn't around people at a young age who were. They were just striving. And then when I went off to the seminary and was in a super duper high end seminary where all these people were entitled, and people looked at me, well, your godfather is a cardinal. Well, and none of that, either I wasn't even thinking that way. And that guy was just my God, was my man, and I called him Kush. He called the Cardinal Kush, Anyway, Daddy Kush. Daddy Kush. When I was little, Daddy Kush. Because I couldn't quite say Cardinal. It's like Daddy Kush. So, because he was my godfather, right? Daddy Kush. So, you have to look at what that trauma is. And you have to forgive yourself and everyone around you. Then you have to build strategies that face it and work through it. And you have to go back to your childhood, because most trauma starts there, right? And so I've had a lot of physical trauma, right? And it had its wear and tear on me. And when I was about 62, I had to read, and I'm a big fan of If Saturn Returns. Every 7 years, you're a whole different person. So every 7 years, I was, told by an old grandma about the Saturn return when I was 6. She goes, when you're 7, you're going to be a totally different. You won't be the boy you were these last 6 years. Every cell of your body you're going to have a different. Right? And so when I was 10, I said, that's it. When I am 14, and I was. And by the time I was 14, I was 6 foot. I went from being 5'2" to 6 foot in like 2.5 years, right? Because I wasn't sick anymore. That energy that would have made me grow was no longer stifled. I wasn't hiding, and that's why I was a little guy, because I was easily hid. My father tripped over me once when I was 7. He looked at me and said, "Who are you? You're not one of us. You don't belong here." And he was right. And instead of me go, "Oh my God," I said, "Oh, okay, he's right. Okay." I've been thinking this, the last year, and now he's telling me, so it's okay. Anyway, so yes, I'm gonna split. So I'll probably see you later this afternoon. I hope you all return around, between 2 and 3 my time, which would be whatever your time. And I'll catch you guys later. Have a good day. Remember, conscious intent I am, conscious intent I am, conscious intent I am. Remember, conscious awareness I am, conscious awareness I am, conscious awareness I am. Now say it with me. Conscious intent I am. Say it. Conscious intent I am. Say it. Conscious intent I am. Now say it. Conscious awareness I am. Conscious aware I am. Conscious aware I am. And that's your mantra, right? So catch you guys later. Love you. Oops.
One day we had a trip, so now I can-